how AI transforming your creative decision making. And it's from Stefan, Britton, he's commercial director at Datasine. So over to you.
Great, thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, so I'm Stefan Britton, I'm the commercial director at Datasine, and we specialize in helping companies make more money from their Facebook and Google ads. And we help them do that while spending considerably less budget. And today I'm going to talk to you about why you need AI to help you with your creative decision making. So our industry has a bit of a problem. We're spending on fortunes on advertising, but most of it fails to work. 96% of ads are forgotten or not even noticed. And marketers need help now more than ever. Because 2020 has made digital advertising a far tougher job. The CPM on Facebook alone doubled in 2020, coming from $8 to $16 per 1,000 impressions as the world rushed to sell online. And not only is it more expensive, it's also more competitive. There are over 9 million companies advertising on Facebook at any one time. That's up from 7 million in 2019. So you've got an additional 2 million advertisers to compete with in that last 6 months alone. And it's growing every single day. And on the other side of this digital explosion is your consumer. Your consumers now see more ads than at any point in human history. And across all the channels, the average person sees up to 10,000 ads a day. And with 70% of the receptors in our brain being visual, and our brain processing visuals 60,000 times faster than text, it's no surprise that you're now currently staring at the ads that are being fired at you. Well, because our brains are so incredible at making visual decisions, we make those visual choices really, really quickly. Google's research says it takes 50 milliseconds for a person to decide if they like an image on an ad. Facebook say if someone's interested in your ad, they look for 1.7 seconds. So when you bring all these numbers together, what it really means is you have 50 milliseconds to get 1.7 seconds attention from someone who's seen up to 10,000 ads from 9 million different companies, which is why the creative you choose to use is more important than ever. Your creative is clearly and statistically the single most important attribute of your ad. Nielsen say 80% of an ad's ROI comes from the creative. Ipsos say 90% of the click is attributed to that creative. So with all this pressure on creative, it's crazy that it's still mainly guesswork on what creative to use and why. How do you choose the right creative consistently, at scale, across multiple audiences, products, and sales funnel stages? Well, your guess is as good as mine. And that's exactly the problem. And because you don't know what will work in advance, all you can do is A/B test, which means you only know it doesn't work after it hasn't worked. You could be spending up to 50% of your ad budget to run these poor performing ads in the real world, which means you're actually paying twice, once in wasted budget and again in lost opportunities. So clearly the industry needs help making decisions about this most important part of an ad. And that's where artificial intelligence can finally help. Computer vision and natural language processing can turn human creativity into machinable data that can deliver insights and direction. Computer vision turns every pixel of every image into code and then analyzes that across multiple layers. So firstly, it would look at what the human can see. In this case, we've got a confident woman on the phone in the street with a scarf. Then it will look at another layer which analyzes all the complex design elements, things like color, style, shadows, depth, layout, hierarchy, movement, all the clever things you pay your designers for. And then it will also analyze the contextual and semantic properties of the ad, so the actual offer itself, the audience settings, and then the combinational element of all of these pieces. And it generates millions of points of data on every single ad. And because it has so much data to interpret, the neural networks can analyze and interpret that data in a completely different way. So where we see cats and dogs, AI sees zeros and ones. So when it looks into this data, it's a bit like looking at one of those old magic eye pictures that you used to stare at with one eye and see a dolphin. The AI can look at this massive set of data and it can spot patterns in human engagement that we humans simply cannot. And when you take all of this creative data and analyze the ad profile, including the audience settings, combine it with previous results, you then get an AI model that can help predict the performance of your ads before you run them. It can tell you if an ad is better on Facebook, Instagram, Google. It can tell you whether it should be a carousel or a single image. But most importantly, it can tell you what ads not to run. It can tell you in advance what ads will waste your money and what help you make sales. It can also look at language. So natural language processing can analyze copy and in some cases write copy. And when all of this works together as a feedback loop, you get to learn from every campaign. You'll have real insights on what creative works, what you can use across your website, your out-of-home ads, and you'll be able to buy and create better media because you know what works. And ultimately, you'll get significant uplifts in engagement for considerably less budget because you no longer spend money on ads that don't work, and you're finally giving your audience the creative they really want. I'm Stefan Britton, and I'm now going to answer some questions for you. Thanks very much for listening.
Stefan, thanks so much. Great presentation. So let's have lots of questions. AI and creativity is such a hot topic. Let's dig into them. One from Cindy. Nice to see you back. She says, creativity has always been a very human skill. How do you see human creativity and AI coexisting?
Yeah, obviously it's a question I get asked a lot. And the way I like to explain it is it's a spell check for copywriters. We are not necessarily coming up with that creative spark in the first place. We still need the human to do that. Now, we can give insights and direction on what works and what doesn't. McCann recently created a TV ad in Japan using an AI director, but there were still humans there creating it. So the AI director looked at what worked, looked at what didn't, and gave insights and information. So what we're doing is helping creative people, media buyers and programmatic advertisers and performance marketers test the creative they've got at their disposal, not necessarily us creating it in the first place. So the answer to the question is the human still is the creative spark, and the AI is there to give them some direction and allow them to do some testing.
Great answer. Anonymous asks, and this is good, can AI ever do empathy?
It's an interesting one. I actually did a webinar recently on brand empathy. And what AI can currently do is measure the sentiment of an ad in as much as it can say, this is the emotion that this ad will elicit from an audience by looking at various data points. So an AI can figure that a happy child on a beach playing with a toy is more likely to bring out happiness in an ad than a picture of a car crash, for example. And we know this from actually working with insurance companies. It can't necessarily yet understand emotions, but it can read emotions on people's faces. So again, it can use that data to really understand what a human will feel when they look at the ad. But it's not yet currently available for AI to actually be emotional. What it will do is measure our emotions and tell us how to use them.
Stefan, amazing. We're out of time. I can never hear enough about AI and creativity. Thank you so much. That was absolutely great. Thank you.